We are ready to go. Welcome, Grace, to the Future of Fitness podcast. And it's been a while. So thanks for your time. And we're going to speak today all around strength training and why it's important and the kind of misconceptions around, what's important within it. And yeah, Grace is going to share us a lot of her wisdom today. She has so much experience, and I feel like I'm going to learn a lot. So I'm looking forward to this. So, welcome, Grace. If you wanted to just share about what you do currently, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay, so I currently have a personal training studio in Stoke Newington, and we predominantly work with strength training. There are nine of us now, nine trainers, and we have a kind of basis of strength training. But then everybody else has got their own little niche that they kind of bring to it. We've got someone who's a yoga teacher, someone who's I always say semi-professional rugby player as a female rugby or female athlete, because they're never kind of seen as professional. But she's at the top of her game, training loads of rugby players and that sort of stuff, which is obviously strength stuff. But then we've got other trainers like myself whose perfect client I say are women over 60. So building strength for women that have, I guess, never even thought of strength training, or strength training when they grew up wasn't as cool as it is for kind of our generation. And I guess learning and having the space to learn about how good strength training can be later on in life.
Mm. Yeah, and there's quite a like a people feel like, oh, if I haven't done it by this age, there's no point starting. But obviously,
Totally.
you prove. And also, I know that for the generations before us, the emphasis was on being skinny as opposed to
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah. Yeah, totally that. It's difficult. I still go to classes now that I always like just trying a different fitness class and just seeing what's out there. And yeah, I went to a class last week and it was called Sculpt, and it was ankle weights lying on the floor doing like little kicks and stuff, and I was just like, what is this? And also the worst thing was, I, as somebody who is probably a size average is like a size 10, maybe sometimes closer to a size 12 because I got a big bum on my lower body. But I went to that sculpt class, which was aimed at, toning, which is my least favorite word. But toning essentially means building a bit of muscle, having muscle. And I was so self-conscious in that class because I looked overweight. And
Really?
yeah, and sorry, let me put my thing on. There you go. Yeah, I looked overweight because these people are tiny, tiny doing these body weight exercises. And I had to think to myself while I was in there, why am I like so triggered by this? And it's just simply because we're all just constantly, oh, you have to be skinnier, have to be smaller, thigh gap, all this crap. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I was quite shocked to see that that still exists in the fitness industry. I thought
Well,
we were done with all that.
it's like very short term, like focused, isn't it? Because in the long run, as you get older, the less muscle you have, the less likely you are to live longer. So
Yeah.
it's only really thinking it's kind of our world right now, isn't it? Though a lot of it is about this short term fix and yeah, only having that short sightedness
Yeah,
with our goals.
exactly. Yeah, because one thing that I say to a lot of women trying to get them into strength training, if they have been used to that sort of low impact, high rep, cardio based jumping around in a class sort of situation, they've done that a lot of their life, or they've done no exercise, and then they're like, why should I be strength training? The one thing that the quote that like sticks out to me is that between the ages of 50 and 70, if you don't strength train, you lose up to 30% of your muscle mass, which when I first saw that, like I obviously knew that it was something like that, but like when I saw that stat written down, it just blew my mind
Mm.
that you kind of think like 30% of your body is a lot, like a 30% of your muscle mass. That's insane. That's like your arms or more than
Yeah.
that, you
And
know?
considering a lot of people don't start with a lot of muscle,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
significant.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, my mum said a while ago when she came to London on the train, she was kind of disgusted that a young lad had offered to carry her bag, and she was like, "I can carry my bag." And I was like,
Yeah.
"All right, okay. Well, it's nice that he's offered first. That's nice, but she is totally right. Just because she's got grey hair now doesn't mean that she can, carry her own bags." I always say this to my female clients that are over 60, that as they get older, more and more people want to do things for them. But the more people do things for them, the weaker and weaker they get. So I
Yeah.
I had a time that was a bit difficult when I first started strength training, where my grandparents were around the whole of the family, and it'd be like, "Oh, my granny needs this. Can you just?" And I'd be like, "No." And everyone's like, "Grace, why are you being so rude?" But I'm like, "No, because she needs to get up and get it. Because if we start doing stuff for them now when they're in their like late 60s, 70s, then they're not going to be able to do it in their 80s and 90s."
Yeah.
And, and then thankfully everyone listened to me. But I can understand how that could be quite a challenging thing. It's just I guess it's a that kind of respect your elders vibe, um, mentality, which yes, that's fair, but also they're not. Life isn't over at like 60 anymore.
Yeah.
People are living way longer, and you need to be able to be fit and strong and active to be able to cope with life at that
Yeah.
age.
How did you so you obviously know a lot. How did you get into kind of doing what you do now? Why did you come into this industry? And yeah, where did you start from? Obviously we met at university, so I kind of
Yeah,
know, but
yeah,
for those people that don't.
yeah. So when we met in uni, I think we'd come from very different training throughout our childhood. So I didn't really have any formal training. I just loved dancing around my bedroom, and then my parents took me to a youth club that was doing some dancing, and this club had been going to these disco dance competitions all over the UK. So that's how I kind of got into dance to start with. um, but then it was never like a regimented ballet class that I then did in uni. And we didn't even have a proper dance studio, so we didn't even have mirrors and things like that. So I came from it as, this is fun, just express yourself, and then came into this really formal dance training, and like stood in front of a mirror for a minimum of 8 hours a day. Most of the time, if we had like rehearsals for different choreographies and stuff, it was longer than that. And then you've got your teachers constantly saying, "No, do it again, do it again, do it again." That I was then stood next to loads of young women who were so beautiful, going, "Oh, I need to lose this weight. Oh, I don't. Oh no, I need to change this about myself. I need to change that." And I was always just a bit like, "What?" Because
Mm.
I kind of wasn't brought up around that. It was a real shock to me. So the 3 years of um the university like degree, it was quite shocking to me, and I think part of it rubbed off, but nowhere near as much as people that had had that from like the age of 4.
Mm.
So I'm lucky in that respect, but it still made me think that, why are people obsessed with the way they look when they already look like insanely fit athletes? So it's like, how can they be negative? So yeah, it just didn't sit well with me. So I I also always wanted to be a PE teacher or a personal trainer. I thought I'd have this really colourful dance degree, but didn't. But then I thought I'd then become a PT or a PE teacher. So I thought, oh, while I'm still in my study mode, I'll do my PT course. And then when I did my PT course, I learned so much about how poorly the like the anatomy care and the physical care was for dancers.
Mhm.
So after I finished my PT course, I contacted the course leaders that we were quite friendly with because we were both like student like representatives. So we
Goody two shoes.
yes, we were. But we spent me, you, and Jess Wilson. We spent a lot of time, the three of us, with the teachers, like feeding back. So I thought, oh, we've got a good relationship with the lecturers. Let's contact them and say, look, I want to come in. And we had fitness classes that were just doing a circuit that was nothing to do with actual dance and
Mm,
training or conditioning for dancers. So I was like, oh, I want to come and I'll do it for free. I don't care. That I really want to do this. Nobody replied to my email. It was so bad. So I was like, right, okay, well, let me get into the usual route, get a job in a gym to do that. But I never thought that the way that I now, and quite quickly, fell into strength training, and now it's like been my whole career.
mm,
I never thought that even when I did my PT course, because the PT course is so basic, you don't learn anything. You don't learn how to pick up a barbell. You don't learn any of
yeah.
that. I learned that from other PTs when I went into a gym. Um, and then I just really enjoyed it myself and was like, right, I want to, you know, show more women and how to do this. And the gym that I was at was very regimented. It was, and some places still are, where it was like they called it the weights room was very like the man's area, and then the
Mm.
cardio room was for the women. Like, so I came in and was like, oh no, this is not good. So tried to get as many women into the weights room as possible. Um, but yeah, I still find it quite strange that there still seems to be no conditioning or strength or specialized fitness for dancers where we studied.
Well, I think probably there's an aspect of it's more about the art
Mm.
than the kind of care of the body is
Yeah,
what, because you kind of expect to come out of it feeling sore and achy and all that stuff. And it's very outdated, I think, a lot of the, like you said, the conditioning as well.
yeah. I just thought we'd pass that though. I don't
Yeah.
know whether, but then it's what, like 15 years since we went to uni? I can't remember. We went in
Really?
2009,
Yeah.
by 2012 we graduated. Um,
12 years in.
I'd love to hear if it's changed. I doubt it has, to be honest.
Yeah.
I remember being with stood outside the class, and the one of the ballet teachers was just smoking with people outside, and I was like, "What?"
I'm sure that's changed by now. The lot of has changed around smoking now.
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Still, it doesn't seem that long ago though, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, crazy.
So, so you did your PT course and then you were working in a gym and then you decided to open your own space?
Yeah, so as passionate and as excited I was about getting women in this weights room, which was only for men, um, that wasn't a piece of cake. It was insanely toxic, that environment. There wasn't a day that went past where somebody didn't catcall me, touch me, phone me, send me a picture of their genitals. Um, and you're just like a piece of meat. And because you work there, you can't say anything. The customer's
Mhm.
right, So it was a really difficult environment to be in. But I felt like quite stubborn, like, no, it's not. We all pay our gym membership. I'm paying my rent here. We're all allowed to use the space. So I put up with 4 years of like insanely toxic environment to the point where I was just like, actually, maybe we do need a women only gym. And I really hate that that's what what was the kind of end of that chapter, was that that's what my
Mm.
mentality was. I was hoping that it would be the opposite. It would be like, wow, isn't this nice? We can all play together, you know? Um, but it wasn't. And I have never had a women only space. I still don't believe that it should be women only. My business is a space for all, but I always say it's feminine focused,
Yeah.
and we are attracting 85, probably 90% of our members are female, and the others consist of a lot of the female um, clients' partners, but then also
Amazing.
some of the trans and non-binary community as well. So there's a space for them. Um, that's well, for everybody. It's a safe space to exercise.
And I found that, well, first of all, helping to teach people how to strength train, to feel strong and to lift weights makes them feel so empowered and confident in themselves. And often, a lot of the time is that they just don't know how to use the equipment, and all they need is to just be taught how to use it. And I did it. My client was on holiday. No, she was working, and this was it this morning or Sunday, and I was just showing her how to use the equipment, and then it was like it's really simple once you know, but people can
Yeah,
be put off by it for so long, and they're too embarrassed to kind of look like they don't know what they're doing.
yeah.
Actually,
I also find that you can go to classes that are like a strength class and they still don't do anything with a barbell. Um, and you're in a class of some places they let like 35 people in a class.
yeah,
Blows my mind, and one teacher. I just don't get it. Um, I struggle to be a participant in those because I'm just looking at everyone's poor technique and it's
yeah,
freaking me out.
yeah.
Um,
It's
so
hard, it is. Yeah, you try to not be critical and like, be understanding of people, but
yeah,
when it's just such high volume and people aren't doing the right technique and you can feel in yourself it's not great for your body, that's
yeah.
when I can't
I also
continue.
feel like it's giving people a negative experience of strength
Yes.
training, and then that
Yeah.
doesn't help. That's why I got really stuck in a bit of a loop when I first started as a PT because there was 15 PTs in the gym I worked at. Um, Only four of us were female, and we were always fully booked. The male trainers weren't, and there was only one female trainer and one male trainer that I would allow my clients to train with, like say if I was on holiday or
Mm,
if somebody wanted specifically to train with me and I couldn't fit them in. There was only two out of the other 13, no, 14 that I would recommend, which is a really bad stat for personal trainers, but personal training is so unregulated, and fitness instructors, the whole industry is so poorly regulated that you you could get a good PT, but the most of the time you're going to get a bad one.
yeah.
And I kept just saying yes to people to the point where I was doing like 50 PT sessions a week, completely burnt out because I could see that their other option was a poor PT, and I didn't want that to
Mm,
ruin their experience of personal training. Because
yeah.
in an ideal world, I understand money is is difficult for people, and especially at the moment, it's hard to put money aside for a high priced item like personal training. But in an ideal world, I'd tell everybody to do 10 sessions with a PT.
Yeah.
You could learn so much um just in those 10 sessions, and there from then you can go off and train yourself in a gym, or occasionally
Yeah.
maybe get someone to write you a program. But in terms of learning how to stand properly, to squat properly, to deadlift, to pull, to push, to activate your core, just like having 10 hours to learn that, I think would completely change the fitness industry. The first gym I worked at was an Energy Fitness, which was a
Hmm.
franchise. I don't even know if it still exists, but
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, the concept was really good where they had the Empower program where you had 6 30-minute um sessions with a gym instructor when you signed up. So every new member had to go through this Empower program. And the first one was like a consultation. The second one, it was over 6 weeks as well. The second one was then they wrote your program. The third one was they spoke about nutrition. The next one, they spoke about your like well-being, your lifestyle. The next one, they reviewed the program and so on. And you had like these 6 weeks where you had like a really, really intensive induction to the gym.
Hmm.
And it was so good for A, for client retention, B, for their goals, but also just for like our like sanity, because it's just like you felt like you're doing something with your personal training qualification that wasn't just as a gym instructor cleaning, um,
Yeah.
you know, or teaching the odd ab blast class, you know. Um, but it just meant that the whole gym environment was far more beneficial than just people turning up and just walking on a treadmill, running on a treadmill a bit, and then doing some of this and that on the
Yeah.
machine, you know?
So when you get a client that is new to it, strength training, kind of where do you start with them? Do you have a kind of step by step that you would go through with them generally?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's personal training, so you want to try and personalize it as much as you can to that person because always start with a consultation. So finding out over kind of half an hour, 45 minutes, a chat about what their daily life looks like, what they've done in terms of exercise before, things they're scared about, things they want to try. And then after that, the first session would be a kind of introduction and a kind of testing to see where they're at. Because a lot of the time, well, I find that women massively undersell themselves, men massively oversell themselves. So
Interesting.
you, yes. So you get a man that'll go, yeah, 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 I've done squats and yeah, I can do this and I can do that. And then their technique is absolutely awful. And then you get a woman who goes, oh no, I'm really scared. I don't know, I've not done that, or I don't know what I'm doing. And then you ask them to do a squat and their technique's perfect without them ever
Mm.
really having a PT before.
So you
Um,
go through all the different exercises. What kind of exercises do you go through?
Yeah. So I'd start them off with some mobility first, because if they have any injuries or anything like that, you want to figure that out first and make sure then you're kind of creating a balanced human to start with. That's the main goal,
Yeah.
really, before you can get stuck into some of the like juicy barbell stuff. Just making sure that they're as even as possible. And then I'd definitely do some squatting. It would be more like goblet squats with a dumbbell, so or a kettlebell, something like that, just to get their weight distribution in their feet correct. Because a lot of the time people are putting their weight onto their toes. In life we walk forward like that with our head down, and actually then your posterior chain, so all the muscles right from the top of your head down to your heels, they are weak in their posterior chain, so anything in the back is quite weak, and that can be from sitting down all day, from standing up all day. And also a lot of people, if they are going to the gym or doing stuff, they focus on the stuff that's in front that they can see rather than working anything in their back. So yeah, I do some sort of squatting, maybe some deadlifting, and mainly just picking stuff up properly. So that, like I said before, their weight is in the heels, the weight is in the feet properly, and just getting them to stand better. I'd also put a lot of emphasis into their knees, because a lot of people push their knees in. Our bodies always want to go into fetal position, so the default is turn everything in and close the body up, whereas you want to do the opposite um, in that respect. And then I always do back exercises with people starting, as I said before, posterior chains weak. And most people work from home now or sit at a desk. So they're, as I am right now, hunched over. Um, so yeah, it's really, really important to get their upper body, so their back nice and strong. And then I'd finish off with some core work, and that would take us probably an hour to get through all of that. Um, and that would probably be the first 5 sessions, growing
Yeah.
into those exercises, increasing the weight. And there's, oh God, 10 different teaching points for each exercise. So
Yeah.
it will only be 2 or 3 that they'll get on the first go, and then you just kind of got to layer them on.
Yeah. I guess you could, because you don't want to, I always think about you don't want to overload somebody.
Yeah, it's a
You
lot
get
of
them.
information, isn't it, at the start? So for the most part, I just focus on the positioning, and then like the next week I'll focus on where they're squeezing, and then the last thing that comes for me is adding in the breath. Unless
Mm.
they've done a lot of yoga, people that have done that, they are really conscious of their breath, which is
What
quite
would
interesting.
you, how long would you give somebody like to see a, to see a change in themselves, to kind of, yeah, how long do you think it takes for people to build a substantial amount of strength?
Well, like with all types of training, everyone is different, depending on what they've done before, but also your genetics. Some people are just naturally stronger than others. So it is difficult to plot how someone's going to take to it. So that is a difficult question, but I always say 3 months is the right amount of time that you need to give at anything, really. But in terms of the strength training, like you will probably have gone through, yeah, 12 weeks of programming. And yeah, like I said before about the 10 doing 10 sessions, if you can't afford to do personal training full time, like 10 to 12 weeks of just learning a course on strength training is so beneficial, in my
What
opinion.
what would you if somebody was looking to get a personal trainer and they were kind of going for an initial session, is there anything you would tell people to look out for to know if they're, going to be a good personal trainer or helpful?
Well, I think a lot of people don't do any research in terms of people's qualifications. Like, for instance, no one's ever asked me if I'm actually a qualified PT. No
Me
one's ever
neither.
asked me to see my insurance. Um, so that is a bit of a question, but I think I look at it as, from my perspective, when I'm looking to hire a personal trainer, I'm always asking where they qualified. And now there's so many courses you can do that are online that you don't get any like actual face to face with a PT. So if I would definitely ask, was their PT, where did they do their PT qualification? Was it face to face? How long was the course? Because if it's only like a couple of weeks, then not great. But if I was a client, I'd look out for somebody who had a website or their social media that was focused on how they felt. I wouldn't be looking for somebody who was looking at growing their glutes or um posting a lot of photos of them flexing in the mirror. Like these people are thinking that, still thinking that their physique is going to sell, whereas
Mhm.
actually that's still a toxic environment, in my opinion. Um, so I'd be looking for somebody who was posting their clients' wins. So things like, oh, my client just deadlifted 60 kilos. They started doing this 3 months ago, that sort of thing, over, oh, look, my client dropped a dress size.
Mm,
That's what
yeah,
I'd look for. I'd also look at the environment that they're training as well. So, if you're somebody who is uncomfortable with being in a big commercial gym environment, then don't go for somebody who works in there. Um, you you want to try and like find a private or smaller personal training studio, or maybe somebody who even has their own home gym,
yeah,
because that's going to be a much more comfortable environment to be in. Obviously, those places sometimes come at a premium, um, but it's totally worth it. I always think when I went from being a PT in a commercial gym to have my own gym, I transferred some clients from that gym to my new space, and the cost that they lost from having to pay a gym membership. So they were paying like 50 quid a month for their gym membership on top of the cost of me. So I had to put my prices up to be able to afford my own space, but then they didn't have to
mm,
pay for their gym membership anymore. So
yeah,
it does kind of work out that way. And also I have with my studio, we have small group training, so like 4 to 6 people. So you could definitely look for, if PT was really expensive, a situation like that. A lot of PT studios do have that like entry level because they
yeah.
understand that not everyone can afford that high priced um personal training cost. So
And I guess like what would be if there are there any red flags that you would think potentially, going in, if you're focusing on strength and you wanted to focus on your health and like taking care of your body with a PT, is there any red flags to look out for
yeah, I think just
in the
comments
session?
about like anything physical, like all those old school, like they make me cringe even like about to say them, like the no pain, no gain and all
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. That's really it's just really poor training advice. But I think a lot of the time that's only someone, a beginner's like exposure to the fitness industry, so that's all they think that there is. So I think trying to stay away from those like trigger words, I guess, that a lot of PTs will use, that just is for me, like I say, a
it's
red flag.
empowering.
Yeah,
And if they say kind of you did a session and it was like just high volume, like the first session, high volume, trying to get you sweating, doing 100 burpees.
no, no, the I in my opinion, the person should leave your personal training session using like 85-90% of their effort. Because our bodies work on a 7-day kind of cycle. So if you are pushing yourself to 100, you're going to be absolutely exhausted. And then the next couple of days is going to take you age to recover. So then you're going to take longer before you can do your next session. Whereas if you are working to a point where you're obviously working hard, if you're up there at the kind of 85-90% thing, but you've still got a bit more to give, that way that you've still got time to recover. But then, well, we try and get everyone to come in at the same time every week because it works better for their bodies and their schedule and our schedule as well. But in terms
Yeah,
of their body, like I said, the 7-day cycle, coming back in the next 7 days, you will be stronger. Your body, your
yeah,
muscle fibers have had time to rebuild, which is the whole point of strength training. And then next week, you will be able to do either more reps or um, more weight.
yeah,
Um, the times that you might be able to do that, for women are obviously the times to do with their cycle. So we've got to put
yeah,
that into perspective. But for the most part, every week you should be able to do more. However, if your trainer is beasting you in the gym and you're sweating and sweating and you're absolutely exhausted and you feel like you've given every ounce of energy that you have and you crawl out of the gym, then A, that's like completely demoralizing. And B, your body's not going to want to do that again.
yeah. And we also, a lot of people have very stressed and have high cortisol levels. So adding in more overloading the body, I found
Yeah.
people, they actually need to be doing. I think the training that seems the most bland and balanced and neutral is the
Yeah.
best training. So it's not the super easy, super soft stuff. While sometimes that might be appropriate, like you said, at certain points of your cycle, and then not the kind of super beasting. It's the somewhere in the middle is where you want to be with your training.
Yeah, I always say like I would be so famous on Instagram if strength training was really exciting, but it's really not. Like
Yeah,
it's just keep doing squats, keep doing lunges, keep doing deadlifts,
yeah,
this stuff. It's the excitement comes in the, oh, I could never think that I could um do, say your trainer goes, oh yeah, we'll get you to a 100 kilo deadlift, and you're like, well, we're only on 20 at the moment, there's no chance that's going to happen. But chipping away at it every week, every week, every week, you will get there. um and that's the thing that's empowering and exciting. But you can't upload that onto social media. What you can upload is doing a burpee into a tuck jump into a backflip, which everyone's like, wow, I want to do that. Is that going to
yeah,
revolutionize my training? No, it's not. You're probably going to injure yourself, and you're not going to gain anything from it other than shocking your body. So it's kind of a waste of your time.
yeah, exactly. That's what I think. Like, I think if people should prioritize strength training, and if, say, like going for, say, like a run makes you feel like good, really good about yourself, then do add that in, but prioritize doing the strength training first, and then
Absolutely. Yeah.
don't choose the running over the strength training. And
Yeah.
even if you do, it's about consistency, like you said, over time,
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I totally think like always say the best fitness program is one of variety.
and
But
one you do as well.
exactly, yeah. But you've got to have that foundation of strength training. So a minimum of twice a week strength training. And then for the rest of it, you can do things that creatively you enjoy, like a dance class, or some people go to like netball or football or things like that that are group activities, or like you said, going for a run, because obviously there's strength a lot of strength training is focused on um lower reps and higher weights, whereas there is also a lot that you can do with a trainer as well, where you're doing high reps with lower weights for muscular endurance. But those sorts of things you're more likely to be able to get in a class. If you want to
Yeah.
learn strength training and strength training properly and kind of building the weights really, really heavy, that's the time where you're probably going to feel most vulnerable. So you'd want to go to like a PT one-on-one or 2-to-1 or a small group class. Um, and that is what you, in my opinion, would need twice a week. Um, but yeah, any kind
Three
of,
months.
yeah, minimum 3 months.
So what would you say if somebody was new to strength training and they're worried about it hurting and they're worried about injuring themselves? How would you help them to feel more empowered and confident with it?
Well, I definitely obviously say get a PT. um, but also to give myself a plug, I have a Strong After 60 program, which is an online program where you do 2 sessions a week, which are videos recorded that are an intro to strength training. And I say it's called Strong After 60, so it is aimed at women over 60 who are worried about starting strength training, a bit scared to go in a gym. It's kind of the option before that, if you have that kind of fear before going into a gym and getting a trainer. But it is actually not just for over 60, it's for anybody who has not done any strength training. So I think sometimes doing something in the comfort of your own home to start with can make you feel a little bit more confident than going straight into seeing a fitness professional.
And learning maybe what is a good pain and what's not a good pain. Because
Yeah,
obviously you're going to get sensation when you exercise that you're not used to.
absolutely. Like, or sometimes I'll have someone come in for a consultation, and with the consultation, we'll do mainly like 15 minutes chatting and then 15 minutes of a movement screening. And in the movement screening, it's probably the lowest like level of activity that I would ever do, is just to get people to see what level they're at. Can they stand up and sit down off a chair without like their knees buckling, with their weight in the heels, get them to do that 10 times. And I genuinely had someone who'd run a marathon and said, yeah, I'm a keen runner, who I got to do 10 body weight squats with correct form in their movement screening, and they said that they couldn't walk for like 3 days.
Yeah,
But that's because they haven't hurt themselves. That's because this is the first time they've ever done a squat right.
yeah,
And yes, they might be really fit at running, but they're not fit at strength training. So I think they were really shocked about how they struggled with that, and how what the effect on their
yeah.
body was.
I have with most clients who've never strength trained before that I train, and I then make sure the session is very gentle
Mm,
because I know they're going to be in pain the next day, even if it's
exactly.
very gentle and slow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's
But it
like you said, your body's not used to it, so it is a little bit of a
exactly.
shock.
Yeah, so the way I program my clients, just generally, is I do work over a 6 week phase. So we'll do the same program, but we'll progress it over 6 weeks. And then the week 7, say, or the start of that new phase, they'll do new exercises. And still, people that have trained with me for like 10 years, still, when we do new exercises, they will ache slightly.
Yeah,
But the aim isn't to ache, that's a shock to the body. Then the 5 other sessions of that program, they won't ache, because they come back the next time and their body goes, oh, this is what we
remember that.
did last time. And then
Yeah,
it builds on it.
yeah, and when people feel, sometimes people are hard on themselves, right? Because they're like, oh my God, all I can do is this, and look at that person over there who can do that. But I just say, like, no one is born being able to do a squat. Everybody is started in this place.
Yeah,
Everybody has to go from zero to whatever, and all it is practice. And actually, I think when someone is starting out strength training, it requires the same amount of effort as somebody who's lifting 50 kgs weight, because
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's not
And
less than.
yeah, and you never know how far somebody is in their journey in the gym or looking at them. Even like I get kind of caught up in this a bit and I have to tell myself, oh no, don't worry, like you're just starting a new type of training or starting a new phase. Like as somebody who is quite an advanced exerciser, I put myself in positions where I go to a new class that's different, and then I'm sometimes not the best in the class, and I'm like, I can't deal with that because I'm so used to being, the best in the class. But then you got to realize, like, oh, I'm not used to doing this. These people probably come every week. That's fine, you know?
Yeah,
And then you kind of bring yourself back down to earth and go, oh yeah, we're all on a different journey. Like it's fine.
yeah. And anyone who's ever been successful puts themselves in those positions all the time where they don't know, where they're not good at something and they get better. So,
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I think the first time you're doing something, or if you are feeling like that, just think that, "Oh, okay, next time I'll be better," because that's the whole point of it, is practice. It's
yeah,
getting into a new habit, and what you're doing in that moment is the worst you're going to be at it.
yeah. My favorite thing is when somebody is never liked exercise in their life and then they do PT sessions, they're like, oh, I actually look forward to it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny how women over 60 come to me. I know a woman came to me, I think she was like 69 when she started. No,
Amazing.
she was over 70. She was over 70. Yeah, so this woman was 70, she's 75 now. So she was 71 when she started with me, and she still commented on, well, the only thing she commented on was her PE teacher at school. And other than PE, the only thing that she'd done is walk on the treadmill and use a bike at the gym for years. That's all she'd ever done. And I just find that so sad that their relationship with exercise was so bad at school that they never did anything else.
Yeah,
I find it
yeah,
so, yeah, it's so weird. And that's why, and she now absolutely loves PT, and she's constantly saying, like, oh, why don't I do this? Didn't I do this sooner? You know? But she started and she's done 4 years of PT and she's absolutely flying. So there's no
yeah.
kind of, oh no, I didn't start soon enough. There's never that. Is if you start, then you're always one step ahead of who you were yesterday.
And you're an inspiration to somebody else thinking they can't start. So
Yeah.
if that's all it is, then that's what she is.
Yeah.
So what's your kind of vision? What would you, if you had have an ideal world, how would you like the fitness industry to look?
Oh wow, I don't think we've got enough time for this. So I definitely would have some form of induction process. You used to have an induction before you were allowed to use a gym.
Yeah, I thought
Now
that was still the case.
no, 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 no. Oh no, now there's like 24-hour gyms you can sign up within 10 minutes and go. Um, so I think unless you've got a fitness qualification, you negate that. You don't have to do that. But I think you should have to do some form of induction if you're going to a gym. I think that they should make all gyms bright pink so that women would want to go in the weights area. I always said that. The gym I worked in, I was like, they were renovating the gym, and I was like, can we not just make it all pink and then the women will come in here? um, what else would I change? I'd massively change the media so that skinny wasn't, was seen as unhealthy, and kind of strong weightlifters weren't seen as overweight, were seen as strong and powerful as they are.
Mm,
Um, and I think that any kind of military style shouting and, that kind of teaching style was just completely eradicated because it's not necessary.
yeah. And I think PT should have mentors as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I also think that it should be regulated as well. I think personal training should be seen by the government as healthcare, because at the moment we are not seen as that, which means that our income is capped. And if we want to increase our business, then we have to become VAT registered, which
Ah,
physios don't need to be. Physios have
ah,
yeah, physios have an uncapped earning potential. PTs,
wow.
yeah,
Did not know that.
no, it's very frustrating when you have a team of trainers as well.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult. And yeah, like I always had a mentor, like back to what you said, I always had a mentor, not a kind of formal mentor, but always somebody that I could kind of go to ask things, because it is, personal training is a quite a lonely career. Yes, it's quite funny to say that because you spend all your time with people, but actually you've got no sounding board to
Yeah.
to see what you can do. Like for instance, oh, I've got this client who's got an injury. What would you do with them? Any help? I've tried this exercise, it's not working, blah blah. You don't have that unless you go out and seek it, or you create a business around that concept, like I have done.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, that would be really useful. And that's essentially what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to
Yes. Tell us about your gym and what you're doing with the trainers and what your future is with them.
so my well, how many years? Nearly, well, in April, May, it'll be 12 years as a PT now. And I am trying to do less of the face-to-face personal training and more of kind of PT mentoring. So I've had a few trainers that have come to work under the Fitness with Grace umbrella. Um, that are like fresh out of qualification. So I've kind of took them on an apprenticeship where I've taught them the way that of Fitness with Grace kind of strength training. And then they become a trainer who works for Fitness with Grace. Um, and then I've just recently taken that a step further now, where I am opening it up to any trainers who are just in need of some guidance, because um, there isn't a lot of guidance out there. There also isn't a kind of um, path of where to go. It's a blessing, but also a curse, because you can do whatever you want. You don't have a like corporate job where you just go up the ladder. But then it's very easy as a PT to just stay on one level. So I've created a business coaching company called Bloom for personal trainers, that they can um, come and tell me what they want to do with their personal training career. It can be anything from they want to open a studio like I have done, or they might want to create an online program, um, so that they can do less face to face. Somebody I'm working with at the moment is pregnant, so she's going to need to take some time off, but she's self employed and doesn't know what to do. And of course, there's no help out there.
Yeah.
So all these different things that personal trainers don't really think about until they get to it. Like I went for kind of 8 years, 8, 9 years of my career, and was kind of like, oh, I haven't really taken any holidays. I haven't really traveled anywhere.
Yes.
So I remember, was it no, 3 years ago, I was, I think it was after COVID helped kick me up the bum a little bit as well. But I kind of went, no, I'm gonna actually go and experience what's going on in the world. It's not all about my business. So my goal was to go on as many holidays as I could that year, and I did. And the business didn't fall apart.
Yeah.
So uh now I'm kind of passionate about telling other people and teaching other people that they can do whatever they want in their lives, as well as keep their business.
Yeah. And giving them the support and confidence. Because I think when you're running your own PT business, there's so many different things to think about that can be hard to think about going beyond other than just the daily
Yeah.
grind.
Yeah, it's the kind of industry term, I guess, is that there's so many people spend so much time in the business, they can't be outside of it looking at actually the
Yeah.
business and where
Yeah.
it's going.
Yeah. So you just needed somebody else's energy
Yeah.
to kind
Yeah.
of,
I always say that business coaching for PTs is like having a PT for your business
yeah.
because
Yeah, absolutely.
it's a lot of the same steps, and um PTs respond well to that. We're very goal orientated, so it works well, and people seem to just, once they've got a path written out for them and somebody helping them and guiding them and someone making them accountable as well,
Yeah.
they're kind of able to achieve things that they've probably thought about for a number of years or months or years, and that actually somebody sitting down and going, no, this is easier than you think, you were overwhelmed, but here you go.
Yeah. What advice would you give to PT Grace that was just starting out? Knowing what you know now and knowing how you felt when you just started out as a PT and everything, what advice would you give her? What do you wish you'd
um,
known?
I would give, I think, PT Grace and just Grace, I'd give her the advice of, you can't fix and solve everyone. It's not,
Yes.
yeah, it's not your responsibility. It seems good to be that person that you want to be helping everyone, but actually you got to help yourself first. And I know that I've been described quite like high functioning. Um, but what comes with that is then not being able to relax and have the time off, and being driven, and it is so, yeah, it's so exciting, but also that having that part of your personality means that then you kind of, life just passes you by quite quickly.
Mm.
So I would definitely tell PT Grace to take a holiday. um and I guess, don't be afraid to stick with all the women. Kind of, like, changing men is not my problem, is not my sole responsibility. Like,
Yeah.
actually, it's society's responsibility to change the way that men treat women in a gym environment and men treat women in life. Um, which I think in the first couple of years of training in a commercial gym, it really kind of got to me, that. But then I'm always kind of say I wouldn't be here if that all that I didn't have all
I
those
was
experiences.
literally thinking that, yeah.
Yeah,
It's all
I
kind of
wouldn't.
part of your journey.
Yeah, I wouldn't have my gym. It's a safe space to exercise, with some amazing trainers working with me who believe the same thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And do you think people like strength training is a lot more simple than people think, right?
Oh my God, yes. That's the thing. The fitness industry is like I said before, do this like crazy exercise which you're jumping around and do, like, all that stuff is a waste of your time. You just
Yeah.
need to squat,
'Cause if you
lunge.
enjoy it, maybe,
Yeah,
but
yeah, fine, but it's not going to be as um important to your health than the basic things like squatting, lunging, pressing, and pulling, and doing those things over and over and over until we die. That's
yeah,
essentially it. Just keep doing that.
yeah.
But
And then,
it's not glamorous, it's not
yeah,
shiny and exciting, but it
that's why we've
works.
got fairy lights in the gym and
Yeah,
plants
yeah.
and music. Yeah.
And my great jokes.
And you're great. Is there anything else that you would like to add that you haven't
Um,
said already?
I don't think so. I think we've covered all bases. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. I feel like I should have an end of show question, but I don't. So
No, I
um
think the last question is good. Like, what would you say to? That
Yeah.
was, yeah, that's thought provoking.
Thank you. How supportive of you as a coach. Um, no, I feel like there's one more question in me.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So what is the first step, some other than getting a PT, so somebody could take today to get them on their fitness journey?
Um, buy themselves a decent pair of trainers. Like weightlifting trainers.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so many women, obviously fashion industry is great, um, but so many women will buy the most insane, like, two-piece sports bra and leggings, or um a whole new outfit, and then their shoes are like 12 years old, some running ones with holes
Yes.
in. And everything starts with strength training and a lot of stuff. Everything starts with where your feet are planted. Um, so I would definitely say invest in a pair of weight training shoes.
Amazing.
I'm going to completely contradict everything I've just said by also saying that you can do weight training in your socks or in bare feet,
Yeah.
because actually the reason I've said weight training shoes specifically is that they're flat, so you can use just no shoes and use the floor. So in that respect, I'd just say get yourself a pair of any kind of leggings and a baggy t-shirt or something. You don't
Yeah.
need to have all these exciting clothes and shoes. Just make sure you've got something you feel comfortable wearing that's kind of loose fitting and you can move in.
And then get yourself a good instructor.
Yeah.
Like Grace.
Or
We'll
Alice.
definitely, or me, we definitely will put your information around the Strong After 60, because that sounds like that could be a really cool thing for people to try,
Yep.
whether you're over 60 or not. And then also, you're based in Stoke Newington, but you're also working with people online. But yeah, but are
Yeah.
you open to taking any more people or?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm open for online PT clients and online business coaching for PTs as well.
Yes. Okay, cool. So we'll put all that information somewhere below, so that you can get in touch with Grace. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of your information
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for
Much
having me.
appreciated. Thanks everyone for listening, and I will see you soon.